2018 Porsche Cayenne SUV Review. The good points of Porsche Cayenne SUV. Performance in spades. Fantastic steering. Modern, techy interior. Lots of space inside. The bad points of Porsche Cayenne SUV. Harsh, sporty ride. Feels big on the streets. Still not just a looker. Not cheap to operate. This could be the third-generation Porsche Cayenne SUV, the German brand's larger high-rise performance car. Porsche pompously calls the Cayenne the epitome in the sporty SUV, but individuals have bought into that idea since first car premiered in 2003, for the tune close to 770,000 for sale around the world since first generation's launch. The Cayenne must face off against a massive range of rivals, on the mechanically similar Audi Q7 towards the stylish Maserati Levant, sharp-handling BMW X5 as well as the Range Rover Sport. This third-generation version is longer reduced than its predecessor while our bodies is around 35 kilograms lighter, that will help both performance and emissions. It still seems as if a Cayenne, though, which some buyers can be used off by, it's a slam dunk a pretty car, but Porsche has refined the structure and carried across some key styling in the Panamera Sport Saloon Cum 5-door coupe. Several punchy power variants. At launch, there seemed to be a trio of Cayenne to pick from. The standard Cayenne carries a 3.0-liter turbocharged V6 producing 340 horsepower. The Cayenne S employs a 440 horsepower 2.9-liter twin-turbo V6, as you move the hot Cayenne Turbo carries a 550 horsepower 4.0-liter twin-turbo V8. The turbo's V8 has power reserves available that might worry some sports cars and carries a very muscular noise. The performance is addictive, but naturally would be the least friendly in your wallet. Added on the range right after launch will be the Cayenne Hybrid, a plug-in hybrid model using the 3.0-liter V6 through the standard Cayenne, along with an electric motor. All Cayenne models are wonderful to drive, plus the car has one of the best cabins in the commercial. All versions will tow 3.5 tons and work impressively well off-road, too. Interior design distributed to Panamera. Porsche's near buttonless interior on the Panamera also features from the Cayenne. That means a massive HD central screen dominates your attention, in addition to a raised center console using a chunky gear selector as well as a clean, touch-sensitive group of switchgear. The instrument cluster has an analog rev counter placed in the middle of two digital screens you could configure to exhibit up everything through the navigation, through what's playing on radio stations to performance statistics. The huge multimedia screen looks daunting initially to use but is quick to go to grips with. The verdict. The first Cayenne was your vehicle that changed Porsche's fortunes, making up a massive quantity of sales and effectively rescuing it coming from a sad demise. This third-generation model might just be more generic than ever before, but concurrently will appeal to a lot more buyers, specifically when the engine range is fleshed in the market to include some cheaper tow-run options. The previous car used to be among the class leaders, this also Cayenne pushes the envelope further still. Watch on for that in-depth Porsche Cayenne SUV review. 3 petrol engines and also a plug-in hybrid. Basic Cayenne has 3.0-liter V6. Mighty Turbo comes with a 4.0-liter V8. Currently, you will discover 4 power options to the Cayenne, 3 petrols along with a petrol plug-in hybrid. There's no diesel to date, but we'd be very surprised if someone didn't join the lineup sooner or later. petrol engines. Your Cayenne engine option is small for the moment, and each in the 3 power plants effectively doubles like a trim level. Porsche Cayenne. The standard Cayenne works on the 3.0-liter turbocharged V6, producing 340 horsepower and 450 Nm of torque. That's great for a 0-62 miles per hour period of 5.9 seconds and onto a top-notch speed of 152 miles per hour, if you're not following your steering speed on the far more powerful turbo-badged Cayenne. This is why our money would go. It's perfectly capable for everyday driving, a case in point that it has us questioning the relevance on the S model, too. Being super picky, it isn't as loud as being the other 2 engines, however its watch of performance is such hose will fulfill daily duties without having to break a sweat. You is only going to notice the insufficient performance when driving flat out, but realistically the amount of Cayenne note that sort of action? Porsche Cayenne S. This model sits inside the middle ground, the entry-level Cayenne. If any model inside range will surely be considered as such. And also the ballistic turbo. It employs a somewhat smaller 2.9-liter V6, but features 2 turbochargers to enhance power. The S advantages of 440 horsepower and 550 Nm of torque, and accelerates to 62 miles per hour in 4.9 seconds and also on to 165 miles per hour. While a 100 horsepower increase looks a whole lot on paper, the S doesn't feel demonstrably quicker as opposed to standard car until you're really pressing on. Its sound is slightly noisier, however it's fashionable little odd. Porsche have engineered in many low-speed V8 type burble that doesn't sound real. Yet at the summit end this motor sounds strained, it's trying too difficult. Previous Cayenne S models haven't suffered in quite exactly the same. Porsche Cayenne Hybrid. Also part in the Cayenne lineup is really a plug-in hybrid. It uses a 0.0-liter V6 turbo through the standard Cayenne, with all the addition of an electric-powered motor for the combined system power production of 462 horsepower and 700 Nm of torque. This particular Cayenne is capable of doing surging from 0.62 miles per hour in 5.0 seconds and onto a high speed of 157 miles per hour, which makes it the second fastest within the lineup following your turbo. Not bad for the eco-friendly version. It's properly satisfying to work with too, and quite good fun. Being competent to waft about in silence for 27 miles is quite refined and civilized, however the punchy petrol engine quickly wakes up when needed thanks to your slick drivetrain that flicks between drive modes, e-Power, Hybrid Auto, Sport and Sport Plus, seamlessly. Most on the time you'll spend driving it in Hybrid Auto where the automobile decides that is best with the situation. It prioritizes driving on electrical power alone, together with the engine kicking in when you invest in a extra enthusiastic together with the accelerator pedal. Sport and Sport Plus might be best left whenever you're thinking of having more fun and don't get passengers to throw around. In these modes, the Cayenne is actually unnecessarily fast for the Eco version, with quite strong performance indeed thanks towards the huge torque figure, responsive gearbox and powerful, eager engine. No matter the mode, though, the performance on the hybrid is impressive, with almost instant torque available thanks towards the electric motor, so that it is feel a lot more eager and responsive than you'd expect a sizable SUV being. Porsche Cayenne Turbo. Meatiest may be the turbo, although 71 engines are turbocharged, supplying the same 4.0-liter twin-turbo V8 also seen within the Panamera, and develops 550 horsepower and also a considerable 770 Nm of torque. This may be the fastest accelerating Cayenne be able to currently buy, mainly because it completes the 062 miles per hour in 3.9 seconds and so on. Its solution to reaching a high speed of 178 miles per hour. The muscular burble with the turbocharged V8 results in huge performance when out to get a spirited drive and feels very flexible. There's plenty of power available here, making for incredibly simple overtaking maneuvers and many capability for towing, too. Tiptronic's automatic gearbox. Each Cayenne gets an 8-speed automatic gearbox called Tiptronic's. This comes with a shorter first gear for better acceleration and longer eighth ratio for lower RPM cruising capability, which ensures you keep fuel economy reasonable for any car on this size and power. It changes cogs incredibly smoothly, much more default normal setting, but because you dial the drive modes up through Sport to Sport Plus, the changes get far quicker plus much more abrupt. You're capable of control the box while using steering wheel mounted paddle shifters, and this also is possible minus the frustrating insufficient response another cars exhibit. Porsche Cayenne SUV, the amount of can it tow? Every version from the Cayenne has an unbraked towing capacity of 750 kilograms, with all the facility to haul nearly 3.5 tons should the trailer possesses his own braking, such as the hybrid. Assured and capable handling. Some off-road capability. Active anti-roll and rear wheel steering. Porsche's Cayenne is actually difficult to beat if you're a keen driver. Even BMW's X5 pales in comparison while using Porsche. It works on the lot with the same oily bits because the Audi Q7 and Bentley Bentayga, but Porsche says it has specifically redeveloped a lot of them for its own requirement to make sure it drives differently to its Volkswagen Group stablemate. The steering is fantastically weighted and is also precise, while no matter if you choose the off-the-shelf springs or optional air suspension, it stays planted and flat regardless of whether you're negotiating corners at top speed. Everything feels tight and assured. In case you push the Cayenne hard, there's enough information coming with the steering wheel to offer you confidence along with a feeling of proper stability. It seems like something this big shouldn't handle as well the way it does, but Porsche's expertise is obvious to see. Several drive modes. Along with having 4 different on-road drive modes, you will discover 3 off-road settings whenever the going gets rough, gravel, mud and rock, together with the suspension, stability control, throttle response and gearbox all adjusting according on the conditions. We've only stood a chance to sample gravel thus far on a dry off-road trail, but we're sure Porsche's 911 would have traversed the identical route without much hassle. All it confirmed was the tall driving position of Ford's excellent visibility along with the Cayenne had enough grip and traction to have the job done. We're convinced the 4-wheel drive and suite of related systems offered would fare well on far trickier terrain. Sport and Sport Plus increasingly have the gear changes more ferocious, harden inside the suspension and slacken off the traction control. With the turbo particularly, switching between those 2 modes activates the adaptive rear wing, which acts being an air brake in uncertain braking maneuvers. On cars equipped with all the Sport Chrono Pack you're competent to switch between normal, Sport and Sport Plus having a neat rotary control on the controls. The hybrid comes with all the Sport Chrono Pack as standard, with a power and hybrid auto modes to flick between, together with Sport and Sport Plus. Porsche Cayenne, how good will be the brakes? It doesn't matter which brakes you select, the Cayenne stops well with all of available braking systems. You've got either standard, carbon ceramic or maybe some tungsten carbide-coated discs that is included in their own special pads. Each version possesses his own character, however you won't be disappointed with any of them. We found the carbon ceramics could tend towards feeling slightly sharp at low speeds from time to time, nonetheless it's nothing too serious. Whether you will need that almost braking performance for public road driving is yet another question entirely, though. Optional rear wheel steering and active anti-roll. The Cayenne can be obtained with what Porsche calls rear axle steering, allowing the back wheels to influence slightly. This has two effects. At speeds below 50 miles per hour celebrate the Cayenne more agile, competent to turn in a compact area since the rear wheels turn the alternative way towards the fronts. At speeds above 50 miles per hour both teams of wheels steer inside same direction, which increases high-speed stability when cornering. When coupled while using incredibly powerful and in addition optional active anti-roll system, which prevents the Audi leaning an excessive amount in corners, we found the resulting drive just a little odd, especially once we'd driven a Cayenne without them. The car's body motion feels unnatural and counterintuitive, so as you move the driver could get used towards the sensation over a prolonged period of time, passengers will certainly have a less enjoyable experience. It certainly disconcerted us once we weren't when driving. In reality, all you need can be a Cayenne, preferably on air suspension without any on the other cleverness. Sure, it leans a little, this is usually a large, to-ton car, playing with doing so additionally, it telegraphs considerably more about what's happening underneath you and is also more confidence-inspiring. Great driving position. Quality materials used throughout. Massive screen dominates dashboard. Get behind the wheel on the Porsche Cayenne so you'll experience an internal very a lot like that with the Panamera, albeit far further in the road. There's a big wheel that's available elsewhere within the Porsche range and also a center console that seems without requiring physical buttons for most in the controls. Instead, you press down around the surface, which responds using a satisfying click to pick out a function. It has a while to master where all of it is. You will discover many virtual buttons, but once mastered it's a slick and attractive setup. The chunky gear selector feels great with your hand, and is usually a great spot to rest your wrist while using the frankly enormous touchscreen. The 12.3-inch display is standard on all Cayenne versions and features super crisp graphics that has a highly responsive screen. Pinch and swipe capability comparable to tablets is accustomed to control the navigation mapping featuring real-time traffic information, while a suite of apps and operations are there to boost its functionality. If you download the Porsche Connect app you're in a position to sense nav routes direct in your car. See just how much fuel you've left and preheat the Cayenne for cold morning starts. It'll also connect instantly to devices including Nest so you'll be able to control your home's heating or stream data from cameras or security alarms. Voice control can be obtained too, and it has been improved because of this generation of Cayenne. Firm ride. Supportive seats. Loud tire roar at motorway speeds. You need to remember which the Porsche Cayenne is designed being a performance machine. That's not difficult to memorize when you're not driving it at higher speeds, as being the ride could feel firm even inside Cayenne's mildest mode. Thankfully the seats are beautifully made and wonderfully cost-setting. The electric settings assist you to find a decent driving position within a few moments and you don't should spend an age attempting to adjust the leader either. If you go for that optional dynamic chassis control, you'll be able to choose from normal, sport or sport plus which adapts the firmness from the suspension. Air suspension about the Porsche Cayenne. We'd strongly suggest you take the therapy lamp for air suspension within the Cayenne. It's a modern new system that utilizes 3 chambers to keep its air, allowing it a better gulf between comfort and sport settings. It's still quite firm in comfort, indicating it's a sportier proposition, in spite of this system fitted. That's what we expect from Porsche. Porsche Cayenne Turbo Comfort. The turbo, for example, featuring its large alloy wheels, has significant tire roar when at motorway speeds. That's mainly thanks to your low-profile tires, which enable it to become irritating on long stints, since you should elevate your voice to talk for your fellow passengers or almost deafen yourself by cranking increase music. Thankfully, using the turbo, that's your main source of noise. Wind noise from air passing within the door mirrors is minimal, along with the burbling V8 settles right down to a near-silent hum at motorway speeds. Cayenne Hybrid Refinement. Not enough engine noise when cruising around on electric batteries alone means the hybrid is one of the most refined models inside Cayenne range. There's still a tad of road noise to deal with, as this big Porsche sold with giant wheels through the range, but any wind or road noise making its way into the cabin isn't enough to ruin the event. Far from it. Around town, it's a very pleasant and relaxing car to push. Lots of height kit available for the Cayenne. A large amount of it comes as standard, but much more is available in the options list. You can currently choose between 4 different versions of Porsche's big SUV: Cayenne, Cayenne S, Cayenne Turbo and Cayenne Hybrid. Each trim level is fixed to one engine choice, along with the standard equipment list naturally grows the greater up the pecking order you decide to go. Bear in mind, though, that this standard equipment list increases dependent on performance parts for your vehicle, in lieu of additional luxuries. Standard Porsche Cayenne SUV equipment. Standard Cayenne and a hybrid models consist of Porsche Connect Plus, which includes a 12.3-inch infotainment screen with navigation and Bluetooth telephone connectivity and cruise control. Apple CarPlay screen mirroring is protected, too, but weirdly Android Auto isn't. Each car has 19-inch wheels, LED headlights, automatic lights and wipers, keyless entry, back and front parking sensors and 8-way electrically operated front seats. You may also expect leather upholstery, 40:20:20 split rear seats, a powered tailgate and automatic climate control. Moving up towards the Cayenne S nets you different 19-inch alloys, adaptive suspension called PASM, larger brakes and naturally the more powerful 2.9-liter twin-turbo engine. The Cayenne Turbo gets to be a Bose hi-fi system in addition to air suspension, tungsten carbide-coated brakes, also bigger versus the S's, 21-inch alloys, a more substantial 90-liter fuel tank, an engaged roof spoiler, sports seats, leather upholstery with an Alcantara roof lining. Optional Porsche Cayenne SUV extras. Depending with your Cayenne associated with preference, there are a tremendous number of potential mechanical bits, interior luxuries or trimmings to add for your Porsche SUV. Performance upgrades stem from everything including higher performance Porsche surface-coated brakes PSCD or maybe a even carbon ceramic alternative, Porsche's active stability management and dynamic chassis control, plus rear axle steering, a first for your Cayenne, the quintessential sport chrono pack and air suspension upgrades for non-turbo cars. There's also a large amount of interior trim tweaks, from wood and aluminium appliques to Alcantara, in addition to both Bose and Burmester stereo upgrades. Lots of ordinary safety equipment included. Various bits of driver assistance kit available too. Cayenne is really a safe and solid family car. No surprise anytime the safety kit-laden Cayenne was crash-tested with the experts at Euro NCAP at the conclusion of 2017. It acquired a full 5-star rating. Key safety items on all Porsche Cayenne includes driver, passenger, driver's knee, all-round curtain and side airbags. Active bonnet shows up in event of the crash. Automatic emergency braking ABB. Alarm. Immobilizer. traction and stability control, cruise control, electric parking brake, hill hold function, front and rear parking sensors, tire pressure monitor, Porsche Cayenne, optional safety kit. On top on the above features, there's a great SP watch of optional extras around to bolster the Cayenne's safety and driver assistance credentials. You can order adaptive cruise control, traffic sign recognition, a reversing camera, a 360-degree parking camera, a hearth extinguisher, night vision display, lane change monitor, side airbags and side rear and electric roll-up sun blinds for your back windows. Watch Porsche Cayenne SUV Euro NCAP crash test video. Spacious cabin. Plenty of rear space. Plenty of storage too. The Cayenne is usually a big car. In truth it's larger inside compared to the previous generation, and also you'll seat 4 adults perfectly well. A fifth can be done, though legroom is bound compared with all the outer seats on account of a wide transmission tunnel and center console. There won't be any complaints from those inside front, with a large amount of adjustment within the seats, along with the cocooning feel thanks for the high central tunnel doesn't mean it feels cramped. With dimensions for example these, it's a fantastic job the Cayenne has rear parking sensors as standard. It'll become a challenge to park in the average-sized UK space between 2 other cars otherwise. However, its elevated driving position means you've got excellent visibility, but we'd still consider specifying a model with cameras to help maneuvers. An automatic parking method is available just as one optional extra, while a process to park automatically via your phone welcomes in later in 2018. The Cayenne's boot is growing by 100 liters to 770 together with the rear seats up, so it's watchy a winner inside practicality race against its predecessor. For comparison, a Range Rover Sport bests it barely at 784 liters, nonetheless it completely trounces a BMW X5. It's worth noting that, if you decide on a Cayenne hybrid, boot space decreases by about 100 liters since the battery pack is positioned beneath the boot floor.